In this section, we'll review some basic rules about working with exponents and about order of operations. Just to refresh your memory, when I have numbers written like this, the larger number on the left is called the base, and the smaller number that's up a little higher on the right is called an exponent. If I have a series of numbers here that I'm multiplying the same number over and over, I can write this a little more simply using an exponent. So 9 times 9 times 9 times 9 is equivalent to 9 to the fourth power. In the same way, I could write 7 times 7 as 7 to the second power, or sometimes we say 7 squared. If I'm raising something to the third power, I might say number cubed. But beyond squared and cubed, we always just say the actual number, fourth or fifth or 18th, whatever. When you're writing exponents in Google Forms, there's not an easy way to make that exponent be small and higher. So we just use the up arrow, which is on the uppercase part of the 6 button, and write 3 arrow 5. Pause your video now and work on you try number 1. In our next example, and in several after this, we'll be asked to evaluate something. When we evaluate a mathematical expression, we simplify it and combine it to find out the value of it. So an expression that's been evaluated can be written as just one number. So evaluate means to find the value of, or to rewrite as one number. Let's look at some examples. Here are some expressions we want to evaluate. In the first one, we have 2 to the 5th power. So I can write that out, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and I find that that is 32. We do similar work with 5 to the 3rd power. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. When we're working with a fraction, we just multiply the numerator and the denominator the number of times indicated by the exponent. So in this case, 4 times 4, which is 16, and 7 times 7, which is 49. 16 and 49 don't have any common factors, so we don't need to reduce this. When I have a number raised to the 1st power, I can evaluate that as just the base number. When I raise something to the 1st power, I do not change its value. And finally, when I raise 1 to any power, multiplying 1 by itself does not ever change the value of 1. So 1 to any power is just 1. Pause the video now and work on you try 2. This slide shows some commonly used powers that I would like for you to memorize. Your work will go much faster if you don't have to use a calculator or think about these every time you encounter them. I know that the 3 column is pretty badly out of focus, so I reproduced it over here so it would be easier to read. When you're finished looking at this table, go to You Try 3 and work that problem. Okay, how'd you do on You Try 3? Did you get 41, or 6, or 33, or did you get something else? Okay, most likely you obtained one of the three answers that was just given, 41, 6, or 33. Only one of them is correct, and if we do not have rules to guide us in evaluating expressions, we're not likely to always get the correct answer. So here are some rules that we should follow. Okay, this is called order of operations. And in order of operations, if we have parentheses or other grouping symbols in an expression, we want to simplify what's inside the grouping symbols first. Next, we're going to simplify the expressions that have exponents. Third, perform multiplication and division from left to right. And then lastly, perform any addition and subtraction from left to right. Let's look at that You Try problem again using order of operations. Here's our problem, and we can see we've got a little bit of everything. We have grouping symbols, the parentheses. We have an exponent. We've got division. We've got subtraction and addition. The only thing we don't have is multiplication. So in this problem, we do the parentheses first. Okay, so the 5 minus 3 is what we need to do first. And 5 minus 3 is 2. And so now we're going to move on to the exponents and think about 2 squared. So that gives us 4. And our next step is to do the division. Since there's no multiplication, we only do division here. Left to right, so 24 divided by 8 gives us 3. And now we'll do the addition and subtraction together, left to right. Since the subtraction is on the left, we do that first. So 40 minus 3 gives me 37, and 37 plus 4 gives me 41. So the correct answer for this problem was 41. Okay, You Try number 4 is another order of operations problem for you to evaluate. Okay, here's another more complicated order of operations problem that we need to evaluate. In this one, we have two grouping symbols, one inside another. When we have this, we should always start with the innermost grouping symbol first. So we'll do the 10 divided by 2 first. That gives us 5. Now we're going to clear the other grouping symbol and do 3 plus 5. So now we have 8. 4 times 8 minus 11. So that's 32 minus 11, which gives us 21. Let's look at another problem. In this problem, we've got a big fraction, and I want to remind you that a fraction bar is also considered a grouping symbol. So in this problem, we're going to simplify the numerator and the denominator as much as we can before we attempt to reduce this fraction. So in the numerator, we'll work inside the parentheses and do the 9 minus 6. The denominator doesn't have any parentheses or exponents, so we'll move right on to multiplication and do the 4 times 5. This gives us now 3 to the third power times 2 over 26 minus 20. So in the numerator, we're still going to need to evaluate that exponential expression. And in the denominator, we're ready to subtract. So now I have 27 times 2 divided by 6. And do that multiplication and get 54. And 54 divided by 6 is 9. Okay, you've got several more problems to work in UTry 5, which is the end of this lesson. When you're finished with the lesson, you should be ready to do the assignment in Google Classroom.